What's up? Ho ho ho! Merry Christmas, everybody! I'm Morrow, your storyteller for today. With me, we got some Christmas-themed RPG horror stories that I dug up in the dredges of RPG Horror Stories subreddit. I literally just woke up at 4 in the morning on Christmas Eve, wanting to do something special, and this is me doing something special. Don't worry, we'll be doing something for the end of year video. I definitely want to try to put something together, preferably with Mary there or Micah there, my good friends. Either way, we got a lot of long stories here for today, so without further ado, let's get started, everybody. These stories aren't new by any chance. Some of them are 3 years old, some of them are 6 years old. These are some old stories, but I've never read them myself, and I try to find the ones that are specifically about Christmas in some capacity or in some way. Either they're happening during Christmas or Christmas is mentioned in them at some point. Let's get started with the first story for today. Used by a friend to punish a DM who called her out for her metagaming. This happened the Thursday before Christmas. So I'm between gaming campaigns and a friend texts me asking if I'm available for a game at local store on Thursday night and just lost a player due to getting orders to move out of state. I was free those nights. Nice thing about 9 to 5 jobs is all nights are free. So I said yes. And what does the party need? She said that they could use a 6th level rogue, so I whipped her up, sent it to the DM, had it arrived with few gifts from the DM of level suitable minor magic items to help me slot right into it. DM asked if I could come early to the game night so he could feel my character and playing style out. So Thursday night comes along and I get there early. DM and I get along as my roleplay style seems to fit his expectations and the current party dynamic. He started the session as a one-on-one with me in the tavern and seeing what I do. Since my backstory was a scout for a local merc company, I was looking for a place to settle down and use that as a home base when not adventuring. So a visit to the tavern was important. As a halfling, good food, good cider, and good entertainment and good company was important. Finding all this in local tavern, I was sitting at the bar and singing along with the bard and chatting with bar staff. The rest of the table arrives and we get to the game. Party is in the same town I'm in, and they start looking for the much needed rogue for adventure, so it just happened on the tavern I'm in. Here's where things go south. My friend was the face of the group and popped in first. DM gives a description of me, and as soon as the words "you see a halfling sitting at a bar" are spoken, friend says, "Ah, dang it, it's an edgelord," and turns right and leaves the tavern. Stopping the rest of the party from entering, saying, "No one in there who will suit us. Let's look at another tavern." DM didn't ask what's going on. Friend says, "We don't need edgy like edgelord in our party." DM explains that my character wasn't being an edgelord, and was in fact being more the stereotypical halfling enjoying a night on town, singing, drinking, eating, and just having a good old time. Friend says, "Oh," and looks at the rest of the party and says, "Let's head to another tavern and look for a rogue." Pretty much everyone looks at her with a WTF look on her face, and one of the party asked, "But didn't the DM say that she's not being edgy and just being chill halfling?" Friend says, "Yes, but that's player knowledge and not character knowledge. Based on my initial mistaken first impression, I the character think it's a dark and brooding halfling rogue, even though I the player know it's not." Look at the DM, she smirks and says, "After all, I can't act on player knowledge since it's metagaming." Yo, dude, that sounds like some great like passive aggressive BS. What the hell? That's not a reaction I want to have from a player. That sounds like an unhinged, unhappy player that is not happy about something you've done before, like maybe criticism over metagaming, and now you're just being an a-hole about it and taken out at the table at somebody who didn't even do anything wrong. Also, speaking of meta knowledge, how would your character even know that they're an edgelord? Also, how would you even know they're a rogue if they're jollying around and having merriment and drinking and just chilling and hanging out at an inn? How would you enter in there and immediately determine, "Oh yeah, that's a halfling rogue, must be an edgelord"? That makes no sense to me. If I go to a tavern, I see a halfling at a tavern enjoying their drink and maybe, you know, singing away with the bards, I'm not gonna think, "Oh, that's an edgelord rogue." I'm just like, "Oh cool, a halfling. Anyway, let's get to the gambling table because I gotta gamble, baby." But it's mostly because Morrow wouldn't care too much about a halfling rogue having a merriment. He would care more about where can he gamble at the current time because that's how he gets his rocks off. Either way, it sounds like OP came into a very charged game, into a very charged party particularly, that has something against the DM, or most likely the face of the party has something against the DM. Something had to do with a metagaming. Either way, we got a perfect setting. Let's see how it goes. DM swears and asks to talk to my friend privately. They go off and have a rather heated argument about metagaming. I look at one of the other players and they tell me that my friend has been called out several times about her metagaming and she wasn't happy about being called out on it. 10 minutes go by and I wander over to where they're having an argument to try to get their attention. DM says, "Give me a minute please," while my friend snaps at me with, "Shut the frick up and go sit down, I'm busy." I know sometimes I jump to a conclusion with some of these stories, but that right there is all that I need to know about the two people. While the DM says, please give us a minute, it says in a very polite way. Your friend, quote unquote friend, just immediately snaps at you and says, I am busy. Like they're so self-important. Not we're busy, but I am busy. And while maybe I'm reading a little bit too hard into the choice of words, but if I come out to check with somebody and they tell me, shut the frick up, I am busy, then I probably don't want to have anything to do with you because it sounds like a very self-important jerk. But that's just me though. What are y'all thoughts for it? Let's finish the story. I sit down and wait another 10 minutes and I'm still at it. By now, the rest of the table has wandered off. One slipped out to get McDonald's, one went to the bathroom, two others were looking at minis. At that point, I packed up and left. I didn't make a scene, so no one noticed. I got home and my phone went off. I answered since it was my friend. Didn't get a word in edgewise from her ranting about how the party was screwed since my promised rogue was not AWOL. Funny, there was an available rogue, but eventually I just tuned out her ranting, set my phone to do not disturb, hung up and started binge watching Christmas specials. Haven't heard from her since. Good. I don't think that's the kind of friend you even want to have in your life. If they're removing themselves from your social circles, I think that's best for everybody, especially yourself, OP. Also, I don't think that's a friend. Well, however you met them beforehand, they sound like a jerk of a player, jerk of a person to be at the table, and somebody that literally uses you to take it out on the DM for a metagaming. Anyway, OP, I'm glad things ended good for you, and that friend of yours, quote unquote, decided to finally remove themselves from your social circles. Guys, don't let friends be jerks. Any of them being jerks that aren't your friends. Don't be friends with jerks, but be friends with people that are actually worth your time and your patience. And really focus on the ones that really matter to you. The ones that don't matter, or the ones that are going to be using you as some sort of like a scapegoat or a shield to like piss somebody else off or try to be a jerk to the DM. That's not fun. Don't be friends with those kind of people. Anyway, let's continue on with these RPG Christmas horror stories. The Nightmare Before Last Christmas. Hello all, I've been telling this story to anyone who will listen for the entire last year. Today, while reading a few of the stories that I realized I actually had something to contribute. It's a little long because it spanned the better part of 2018 before culminating right before Christmas. Allow me to describe the cast and set the scene. No names are real names. Me, relatively new to RPGs, but super eager because I never had a regular group before. Dylan, a true veteran of the tabletop, played original D&D and numerous other systems, probably owns 15,000 worth of dice and books, maybe more. Nice enough guy. Just kind of a grouch, but an endearing sort of way. Jabba, Dylan's wife, a cow lady who makes Dylan do everything. Cooking, cleaning, taking care of 3 kids, working 40 hours a week while she stay home pretend to look for a job while actually just playing MMOs all day. Never wants to be a player, only a DM. Bitches and moans loudly when playing games which she's not the DM because she has to have all the Dylan's attention. Other 3 players don't really have much bearing on the story at all. Honestly, they just tend to go with the flow, to not upset Jabba mostly. Now, is the name selective? Because Jabba makes me think of Jabba the Hutt from Star Wars. You know, the big fat slug people. I'm assuming that's choice of words here, right? I decided to run Alternity and make a post-apocalyptic setting. I make it very clear that it's a harsh world and actions have consequences, sometimes severe consequences. But let them know I will never let them flail in the wind and there'll always be an out of some sort. Even if they come out pretty busted and bruised. I pride myself on being able to adapt the craziness and wild players, so I'll let them know they can actually do whatever they want, but to expect the consequences. As usual, Jabba does not want to play because she can't be God. After a few sessions, everyone is loving it. Dylan tells me the group hasn't been this exciting about a campaign in a while. He's been a pretty serious guy and quite the grouch, so this compliment means something to me. They even asked Jabba right in the open if she wouldn't mind relinquishing next week's get-together so they can continue with mine. Dylan even says, "You did say you were getting kind of burnt out." Jabba agrees with kind of reluctancy, but says only on the condition that she can play too. Once again, I take this as a sign the campaign is going great, so I'll help her make a character, start working on ways to tie her into the plot that is already forming. Unfortunately, she just wants to basically be a super badass assassin who is also a 12-year-old girl. Okay, no, but we could bump her up to like 18 since for plot reasons there aren't any children. You know, when somebody wants to play as an underage character, in my experience of reading RPG horror stories, it's usually not for good reasons of like, oh, I just want to play like an underage character because that just sounds like an interesting fantasy that I like to explore, of being like this, I guess, a child character done for wholesome reasons, like a kid wonder, the chosen one, but like not like a main character, the chosen one, but somebody that has a lot of responsibility at such a young age. That fantasy is is interesting to some people and understand where they come from. However, I read so many RPG horror stories where things went borderline. Well, I mean, I can censor myself, so I might just say it out loud. Unfortunately, when you give people freedom to play whatever they want in RPG, some people decide that, hey, this is the perfect time to explore the weird hidden kings that never tell anybody, so I decide to make it like a younger character where it goes more into like the reasons specifically, and it's just really uncomfortable. Now, of course, you can play a wholesome underage character in RPG in a group that you can actually like trust in, but people aren't gonna go weird. But it should be a very selective thing. You shouldn't just go to any public table and just do that sort of thing, because unfortunately there's a lot of freaks out there, and freaks know how to hide themselves like a snake in the grass until they can jump out and pounce on whatever opportunity they can to be creepy. They'll let be a accessory to another creep out there, make a character's 18 just baseline, and if that's what's comfortable at the table for everybody else, then probably best not to push the boundary and just go with that. But I'm gonna assume that Jabba here is probably gonna throw a fit over this. Let's continue. Jabba throws a fit, called it, and begins complaining about how she should have known better than to try to join someone else's game, blah blah blah. I relent and we meet in the middle at a 15-year-old because I really wanted to get back to the campaign. So a little background. In the beginning, all players had to retrieve their smuggled gear, plot reasons, sometimes having to do a favor to acquire it. The entire first 5-hour session was spent doing this for the other 4 players, but let them know it would be streamlined for her because we didn't want to hold up the game any more than we already had. So it's pretty simple. A merchant had found her gear and was holding it for ransom. The rest of the group was willing to help her get it by stealing it during the night by distracting him and his guards. Apparently that's not what she would do, so she proceeds to start breaking the merchant's things and destroying the tent shop was set up in. The merchant shuts down, has his many guards hold everyone at gunpoint and escape. I adapt and on the spot decide that as they're fleeing the area, a group of truly terrifying bad guys show up, and the merchant is forced to ask the PC's help in exchange for the gear or something extra. A fight erupts and Jabba proceeds to attack the merchant during the chaos. She always gets her revenge, Jabba says. So the group that was going to act as helpful NPCs during this fight outright flee with her gear, and the group is left with this tribe of very brutal enemies and are outnumbered. The fight goes as you might expect, with the PCs being beaten up pretty badly and on the road to dying. They don't let this group take them as slaves. I plan on having them escape before that happened. Jabba had a meltdown about being captured. The entire night turns to crap because she won't let us continue playing. She won't quit or let herself be killed. The night is over. Since we're at her and Dylan's house, the group just disperses for the week. Here's the worst part. The fact that you can't even ask her to leave the game or can't join the game because it's still happening at their house. That is probably the worst thing possible. Not only are you being held hostage by the horrible player, but they literally, like, if you kick them out, they just kick you out and the game is over. But is it really worth it? If, let's say, for example, you're playing at a table at someone's house where there's a problem player there that simply can't leave because they are, you know, significant others, like husband, wife, or anything, they have a reason to live there, they live there specifically, then you kind of being held hostage here. I feel like the best thing to do in this situation would just honestly move the venue to somewhere else that's clear, you know, nearby and easy for everybody to get to. I don't know, like some sort of a public place or something, a library or whatever, or someone else's house that's fairly nearby, and then continue from there. Unfortunately though, you kind of stuck with the game being run at Dylan's house, and unfortunately Dylan has to deal with Jabba, and Jabba sort of 2 peas in a pod, very slimy pod because of Jabba, but nonetheless, let's continue. After a few weeks of cooldown, Jabba agrees that it could have all went better, never apologized, and says that she wants to make a new character, but only if they can start completely over. The group is super hopeful and looks to me with bright shiny eyes, hoping I'm okay with starting over. Foolishly, I do, because I didn't know that no tabletop is better than crappy tabletop. I set up again. Everyone says they want new characters because now they know more about the world and want to connect to all the events that happened in the previous failed campaign. There are plenty of nods to previous characters and returning NPCs, etc. I'm a sucker for stuff like that, so it was all fun building it again, to be honest. Everyone was super stoked again and happy with the characters, even Jabba. So the session 0 is complete, and I eagerly wait next week so that we can play again. I get there on the day of the campaign, and Jabba very casually says, "Yeah, I don't really want to play it anymore." So the rest of us play. Now very disheartened that the original momentum we had built up was gone. I left the group sessions later after Jabba demonized me for turning the others against her. Apparently Dylan said something to her one night and how much he enjoyed the first game and really wanted to see if they could go back to that one. Jabba told everyone that I was poisoning the group and making her the bad guy. Have a much better group now. Everyone's chill, still frequently see Dylan from time to time, and usually says, "Hey, we really want to have you over again to run the campaign someday." I kinda just tune him out. Dylan sounds like a really nice guy. However, Jabba sounds abysmal. The fact that she started telling to everybody in the group that you, OP, started poisoning the group. For what? You didn't do anything wrong. You went to run a fun game for people and it seemed like they had fun. And even when you decide to restart every character over from scratch, y'all still did it and you went through with it. Specifically, you rewritten everything and you're ready for the next session. And then she just basically said she doesn't want to play anymore. And because she doesn't want to play anymore, I'm assuming you guys can't run it there. Or maybe the whole thing fell apart, the whole momentum got killed. It's so unfortunate to have games be killed by a singular person. A single person that has this kind of dominion over everybody is unfortunate. Honestly, I wish you guys would have just stuck with that anyway and you're able to continue playing it, but I'm assuming because you're playing at Jabba's place, she made it extremely difficult to play. Like you said earlier, she's one of those people that's very difficult to be around. Specifically, wants to be the god at the table, the center of attention, and if they aren't, then nothing can really happen around them, which is extremely unfortunate that that happened. Honestly, Dylan sounds fine, but Jabba needs to stay away from TTRPGs. They're the kind of person that wants to be the center of attention and not be part of a team, not be part of a party, not be part of a friendly table. They're not friendly at all in the slightest. They're obnoxious, they're selfish, they're self-important, and you don't want somebody like that at the table. They'll ruin the game, because if it's not going their way, everything gotta shut down unless they get their way specifically. They can't compromise, capitulate, or anything of that matter. They can't budge on anything. OP did learn that no TTRPG is better than bad TTRPG, and if one person makes it so abysmal, honestly, I don't think it's gonna be worth it, guys. Like, just don't have that one person play. And if you can help this person, like if you can't not have this person at the table, maybe just don't play at the specific table. Find a different table to play in, whether you're a DM, player, whatever. Anyway, wow, we got 2 for 2 with a bunch of stories. I still got a bunch of more. I want to make this video nice and chunky. So let's get to the next story for today. My terrible weeaboo DM. Okay guys, this is my first ever time using Reddit, and it's my first ever D&D story. After telling this story to countless of my friends, I got recommended to upload it on Reddit. So here goes. Sorry for the length. We started around Christmas 2017. I'd never really known anyone who played D&D, but I've always wanted to play it for myself. As such, I had to learn on my own. I had to teach to other players. I ran my first D&D game for my girlfriend. It was a one-on-one around Christmas. It was pretty fun. It was so fun, in fact, that I tried playing a few more games, hoping one of my friends would become interested in replacing me as a de facto DM, but no such luck. For around half a year, I became the DM friend, and I started teaching my friends how to play D&D and to run games for them. Life is good, but I still want to have an experience as a player. Still around summer 2018, I decided to take a different approach. I go to a D&D Discord group. I'm in high school, so summer vacation gives me a ton of time to find a group I like and play a campaign consistently. For a few weeks, I mostly lurk around the Discord, stalking the DM looking for player channel, a bit intimidated by the seriousness of all the games advertised. As it's my first time as a player, I'm looking for a group of fellow newbies who won't mind if I make mistakes here or there. First, a mistake. I know I'm jumping between we get to the core of it, but it's not really a bad idea to look for a new group of players that's full of newbies. I mean, of course, you don't want to have an experienced DM that can teach you and show you the ropes and stuff. Maybe have some players that have some experience, but there's nothing wrong at all wanting to start a game or find a game where specifically you're looking in to play with a bunch of new people learning together. Eventually, I'll find someone running a game that fits my needs. To keep him anonymous, let's call him Craig. He's looking for someone to join an ongoing campaign, someone who preferably experienced with roleplaying, and the other players seem a bit shy when it comes to roleplaying. Being that I'm a fairly outgoing person and already have experience with online roleplaying boards, I decided to hop right in. I messaged Craig, asked him the type of character would fit the party best, and eventually come up with Rosso Warkiller, a hobgoblin artificer princess. Rosso is going to end up being a blast, but that's a story for another thread. After turning in my character sheet, he invites me to the Discord group and tells me we're going to be playing on Saturday. I'm excited. Spend the entire week perfecting my character, and the day eventually comes when we all hop into voice chat to play. I say hi, and immediately I'm relieved. The 3 other people in the voice chat, being Craig and 2 others, let's call them Dave and Keith, sound younger than I am. For reference, I was 17 at the time. Now all sound very shy and, well, nerdy. Being that I'm an outgoing, charismatic person, I immediately start chatting with them. Craig, who I'd never spoken to out of text until now, turns out to curse like a sailor. I don't have a problem with cursing, but it seems like every sentence this guy says seems to have at least one frick or variant of frick. But overall, he's alright. Dave is the second person who replied to me. He's a very serious person, and you can tell he's probably the eldest one of the 3. Ask him who his character is, and he tells me he's playing Icarus, a storm cleric who's trying to save his boyfriend Apollo or something. Yes, that Apollo. He worships Greek gods. Last person to say anything is Keith. He's pretty funny, but incredibly quiet, stereotypically nerdy guy. He's playing an optimized rogue ranger half-elf named Ardreon, and he seems to be more into war games aspect of D&D. Whenever he roleplays, which is rarely, he does it in chat. I think because it's embarrassed to roleplay in front of his parents, given that he uses his living room computer. We start playing. As I previously mentioned, I joined the campaign midway, meaning the players were already doing something. In that case, the session picks off with Ardreon and Icarus on the verge of leading the army against the main bad guy's armor to liberate some generic D&D town. They do so painstakingly. Craig is instant on using this weird army-on-army combat system he made up, and it's the most boring thing I've ever had to sit through. No role-playing, no characters doing anything, just an interaction more or less like this. Your valley has been attacked on 3 fronts, and you have 900 soldiers. What do you want to distribute your troops? Keith, after 5 minutes of silence, I guess just 300 on each flank. Fouled by crap you not, 30 minutes of pure rolling by the DM, with occasional updates on our army's HP morale, and the arbitrary numbers that we don't care about. No one is into it, and you can tell. Dave is absolutely silent, hoping Keith will deal with the whole thing, and Keith goes AFK at one point because of how boring it is. I sit through the whole thing, still excited to begin with my character. Wow, you get to play a character in this big universe? Let's wait for the DM to start playing this weird army combat system for no reason whatsoever. If there's one thing you could do if you do want to have something happen in the background, it happens in the background. Do your own personal self roles and then explain to the players exactly what happens, or to describe to them exactly what's going on without needing any of the roles. Like narratively, that armies are doing their thing, while the players should be the focus here. I get it. You want to have this crazy big army of 900 to do the big fights and stuff, but players aren't going to care too much about it unless their characters are involved. I get the DM has their own special spotlight they want to do to the cool little set pieces and stuff, but if it's not involving the players, it can be really difficult for the players to get engaged in. Imagine, if you will, there's a puzzle that needs to be done. I don't know, like let's say for example a chess puzzle, and the players are the ones solving it, but they're watching somebody else from the NPC party try to solve it for like 30 minutes. I don't think players will get that engaged. Players want to be able to be involved in stuff. Specifically, they want to get involved in everything that's going on, or have their characters belong in a situation in some capacity, in some way, to be able to help, allowing them to command a few armies here and there. I mean, that's, I guess, is one thing, but if, let's say for example they'll fight you on the front lines in some capacity, but they're able to do something actively to help in the fight, like I don't know, command siege engines, or have the characters be involved in some capacity, actually start rolling the dice and decide what they can do themselves to get involved. That'd be a whole other thing. Don't let the players just sit out and spectate. Make them involved in games at all times as possible. That's the best way to get players engaged, not just watch them spectate a cool battle. I mean, yeah, cool cinematic battle and all, but when can I play already? Eventually, a party of soldiers managed to liberate Genericville, and the party moves in to report the Lord about their whole quest. But before this, they stop on by the Adventurers Guild, go on a little side quest to recruit Rasu involving a battle tournament, and we end the session for the night. Not too bad so far, right? Well, that was just an introduction. The story I'm about to tell happens a few sessions later. To bring up to speed, the party moves from town to town, piecing together clues of the big bad, and we decipher that he was trying to construct the Dark Spire, a magical tower that could grant the builder unlimited wishes. Our quest brings us to the edge of the continent, where we're told that the secret of defeating the big bad is held in a temple across the sea, in a whole other continent. We recruit a few more players along the way, including a catgirl sorcerer named Nia, who wasn't actually called Nia, but I can't for the life of me remember what she was called, and a Tabaxi monk nicknamed Snow, who purchased a ship and travel across the sea. Eventually we make it to the other continents, and Craig says, "You guys see other fireworks as you approach the coastline. There's probably a festival happening today." Obviously a plot hook, but we decide to go with it. Rasu, who had been tinkering with making an animatronic Pegasus for Icarus, suggests to head into town for purchase a few supplies for her Pegasus and enjoy the festival. For a moment, I was hopeful that the session would be some fun roleplay heavy carnival hijinks. I was wrong. As we dock, the first thing we see is an old man. He stops us on the way to town and tells us about the festival. "Today, every kid in the continent turns 13, and to get the grimoire, a source of magical power, except Yami. Yami is a piece of crap." I immediately think two things. Does that mean every child in the continent is born at exactly the same time? Also, can this guy get any more obvious about his plot hooks? It's like a plot hook over the day or like monster over the week kind of thing, except it's not about the player characters themselves, it's about some other NPCs going on out there. Also, the premise that every single kid in the continent turns 13 and they get the grimoire sounds like some sort of Pokemon-esque thing. Everybody starts off with grimoire or Pokeball or whatever, and they go on adventures, except the one kid, because he's a, crappy kid, kind of coaxing the players to be like, hey, maybe they want to investigate who this Yami person is. That's a really strange way to put a side quest level importance as main quest, or try to be super hardcore about it. I get what the DM is doing. Clearly they got like a story they want to tell. Clearly they want to talk about this great character Yami they're thinking of. Maybe well written, maybe interesting character, maybe it's interesting what's going on here to get involved with the character, but unless it matters to the party, it's very a heavy-handed, ham-fisted kind of plot point telling, you know? I feel like it should be a little bit, it could be a little bit better in this situation. It could be a little better in this case, at least in my opinion. Still, maybe there's some genius that I'm missing out. So let's go ahead and see what happens here. We tell them that's cool and all, but we need to buy supplies. NPC tells us that we can't go into the festival because we're outsiders. We can't purchase supplies because the shops are closed. And the only thing we could do is go into the orphanage/adventurers guild. Yes, the orphanage also serves as an adventurers guild, where Yami just happens to be located. I roll my eyes and we all head inside the orphanage. This is where it gets good. Once inside, the DM describes a child that looks exactly like the related pic. Black spiky hair, 13 years old, wearing jeans and a t-shirt. Yes, in D&D. He seems to be moping around. The party heads over to him and asks him what's wrong. Yami tells us that he's the only child in the content that can't use magic, and as such he didn't receive his grimoire. The party kind of feels bad for him, so we all try to cheer him up with explaining how you don't need to use magic to be powerful. Each party member gives a frankly heartwarming account of how they rely on things that aren't magic. Snow says she's gotten strong and that's how she's powerful. Rosa says she's made incredible artifacts with science and research. We all try to cheer him up. Yami stays silent for a few seconds. Still silent. Yami still continues being silent. Still more silent. I still wish I had my grimoire. I'm useless. Okay, so our stories were shot down. The orphanage manager, who just happened to be the same old man we saw in the docks, asked us to go find his grimoire, but the party has other plans. So the old man that said Yami don't get his book because he's a little piece of crap now wants the party to go actually help Yami, who he thinks still is a piece of crap, because God forbid you can't give inspiration to the kid and he's saying, hey, you don't have to be a mage, buddy. You can be a fighter or a rogue or whatever you want to be. The world is your oyster. Go pick up woodworking and carve beautiful things and make magical items or something instead. I don't know. I don't know if in this universe you need magic to be able to make magical items, but there's more self-worth to the kid. There should be to the kid, especially like it's a kid. There should be like, that's a good lesson to be like, hey man, don't let this limitation just, you know, be the end all be all. There's other ways to keep moving forward and other things you can do to become great. But no, the party has to follow a specific pre-written path, specific railroad the DM wants them to go onto. Oh, you can't enter town until you go to the orphanage. Oh, you gotta help Yami so that you can get a pass to maybe do something in town. You have to do this one thing in order to get to the town, which sounds to me very, very silly. Oh, this little kid is a piece of crap, but you gotta help him with his grimoire. You gotta help him do the thing. I DM written this great story and you guys need to participate with it, or else the session is just not gonna happen. And it's one thing if, let's say for example, something important that the players are actually physically involved in, or something that really matters for them, but this is a side quest level. This is simply a side quest. It's not even a side quest, it's a fetch quest being elevated as the main quest for no reason. I don't know why. Maybe that's the only thing the DM planned for today. I'm not fully sure. It'd be one thing if Yami was tied to one of the player characters' backstory, or was important to the player character's backstory, but he's not even there. He's just some kid. He's literally just some kid that's like, I want a grimoire, and that's it. Rosa, being an incredibly motherly character, decides the kid is pretty cute, asking him if she can adopt him, and gets rejected multiple times. Each time, the old man just insists on us finding the grimoire. Eventually, this gets pretty funny, so the whole party joins on insisting until the point the DM loses it. He stays silent for a minute, then asks us in extreme, exasperated voice that if he can just agree to find the grimoire. No, we all say in unison. So he snaps and agrees to let us adopt Yami if we find the grimoire. We agree, and Rosa immediately starts being a mama hand to Yami, telling him to stay on a boat with the animatronic servant she constructs and not get in inevitable danger of combat. Reluctantly, Yami agrees and stays on a ship. With that, we decide to go find the grimoire. Ardrion activates a spell that helps us know when the grimoire is close. We have found him out of the city. Through the continent, in a trip that takes a number of days, after a brief time skip, we're less than 5 miles away from the grimoire. We find a bandit camp nested in a valley. It must be there. Excitedly, the party ducks behind a mountain, completely out of view of the bandit, who couldn't see us anyway, given that we have 5 miles away from them. We start making battle plans. Up until that moment, the DM hadn't really given us an opportunity to sneak around, so we've been waiting for that moment. Adria decides to enchant our horse-sized dragon with major invisibility. We all hop on the dragon, therefore making us invisible given the dragon is technically wearing us. Our planning goes on for a few minutes until the DM... Hold on a second. I don't think the dragon is technically wearing you guys. I don't think you'll become like a hat. You guys aren't a hat, gloves, or boots. I don't think that's how it works per se. If you're riding an invisible dragon, I don't think you're technically being worn. You just mounted on the dragon. So it just looks like you guys are just riding an invisible dragon, basically. It's, I don't know. Is that a thing? I don't know. How do our DMs roll? Here's my question to you guys watching the video. Let's say, for example, your horse becomes invisible and you get on the horse. Is a horse wearing you, or are you just mounted on the horse and you just look like you're riding an invisible horse? Because the way that I would have ruled it is that you just look like you're just riding an invisible object, but you're still straddling it. You're still visible unless the invisibility spell is cast on you directly, you know? I don't know. Anyway, let's continue. Our planning goes on for a few minutes until the DM interrupts us, saying, you hear a voice coming from the bandit camp saying, we can hear you, you know. We tell them to shut up and start making an attack plan instead. For some reason, they can still hear us from 5 miles away, but we still have the upper ground. This goes on for a few minutes more until the DM interrupts us again by saying, okay, the bandit snaps their fingers and you're all teleported into their camp. What? Okay, that's not a bandit. That sounds like next level wizard that's immediately what? There better be a good explanation for this, because this is already nonsensical. That's fine. A bit of BS that we don't get to do any saves against that, but it's fine. Each of us put our weapons ready to fight, but the bandit leader, who described as a holographic being of pure magic, snaps his fingers again. We were wrapped in magical chains, immobilized. Oh great, more railroading. No problem, I'm an artificer and I know Rosa has magical items that can repair this. But as soon as I say I reach for one of our tools, DM tells me I'm paralyzed from the waist down. Our monk tries to teleport out. He can't because his monk powers don't work. Our rogue tries to lockpick the chains. There is no lock. It suddenly dawns on us that it's something we can't fight. So we ask, is there anything we can do? Nope, says the DM. Well, yeah, take away all player agency completely. You can't play. You can't do what you want to do. Not allowed. You dare do something in my game? Not allowed. You get trapped in chains. You can't move. You can't do anything. You can't use your powers. You have to sit there and listen to my great narration for whatever else I decide to cook up for the day. I get it. They clearly have a plan. They want the players to stay still so they can be an audience for whatever this DM decides to cook up specifically. But my dude, no matter how cool you think it is, it's not going to be nearly as cool as if the players were actually involved in stuff and actually help you build the story. Your players aren't trapped audience members. They're there to interact, to be part of the story, not just spectate it. All right, fine. By this point, I've been railroaded into a quest that makes no sense. We didn't know what to take on. We were paralyzed and teleported without a chance to fight back. We're all done with Craig at this point, so we just start asking the bandits to kill us, insulting them all the while. The bandit laughs and draws the weapons, monologuing on why they stole the grimoire and how they hate Yami. And then Yami appears. Now, think on it. Yami got past the combat-made golem, managed to follow us without supplies throughout the continent with no combat skills, magic survival skills otherwise. This kid managed to follow us and avoided detection with only the clothes on his back, and now he shows up at the best possible time. Our very own Deus Ex Machina. Pum pum pum. But of course, given that he is unarmored and powerless, he can only manage to call out our names before one of the bandits smacks him to the ground. He begins to insult Yami, drawing a weapon, ready to execute the poor boy. He's helpless, beaten down, worthless. It's an anime moment, isn't it? Of course it is. All at once, the party understands that the only way we're going to get through this is through the power of God and anime on Yami's side. We'll start cheering him on like if it was a Dragon Ball, yelling, "You can do it, Yami!" Despite that, logically, he is very much dead. And after we encourage him enough, Craig says this. Yami struggles up, and a black sword materializes in his hand. The bandit says, "This can't be!" Yami raises his sword and yells out, "Anti-magic pulse!" The chains disappear, and he begins to cut down all the magic bandits with his anti-magic sword. So Yami kills all the bandits, saves us all, saves his grimoire, and takes us back to the city. This entire session, we essentially did nothing. Arrived at the city, went on a pointless quest that could have been solved by other NPCs, in where we contributed nothing. And that's where the story should end, shouldn't it? The campaign ended a few months ago, and a week ago, I was telling my friend this story. He's a weeaboo, just like Craig, and the moment I describe Yami to him, he gets a strange glint in his eyes. He asked me to describe Yami to him, and I do. He asked me if he had a black sword, and I tell him he did. He asked me if he had a grimoire, and I tell him he did. In that exact moment, the DM used for it. The smile my friend produces his photo tells me to hold up while he Googles something. Then he shows me a wiki article on an anime called Black Clover, protagonist of which is an anti-magic using, sword-wielding 16-year-old spiky-haired anime kid whose picture looked exactly like the game description of Yami. So TLDR, to make your players feel useless in your plot. And if you are, don't rip off an anime doing it. If you gotta do these two things, can you at least make it so this all fits with the D&D universe? Oh my god, so it was just some sort of a weeboo's fan fiction. A wet dream became manifest into a D&D session. Listen, there's nothing wrong with being inspired by your favorite D&D characters that you really like. No matter how lame other people may think they are, there's nothing wrong with being inspired by anime in the slightest. Me and my friends, we fucking love anime. We love all the anime tropes, and a lot of things that we like experience, and a lot of jokes and memes are kind of anime tropey too, with such a way where we can still have our own individual personalities, not just be obsessed with a specific anime for one reason or another. It's fine to get inspired by various different media, fantasy, anime, what have you, whatever. That's nothing wrong with that. And there's a lot of great RPG-esque and MMO-esque anime, and maybe even some D&D-esque anime that you can get inspired by and use that as inspiration to make your own campaign and stuff. But when you directly ignore player agency, when you ignore players' involvement in a story completely, and there's nothing they can do except be a trapped audience, that is a problem. There's nothing wrong with wanting to have this kid with an anti-magic sword and stuff. Very contrived and tropey, sure. But the biggest crime here, the biggest sin that Craig has committed is deleting and destroying all player agency. Do not destroy player agency. Your players are important. They're people at the table that want to play the games with you, not just be as a trapped audience member that you can sputter your stories towards them, at them specifically. Let them be involved in the game. Don't make him a captured audience. In this situation, captured is actually a very apt word because the player characters were literally captured. I couldn't do jack squat except watch this Yami, this main character syndrome kid, just anti-magic sword, S-U-N-A, and just solo everything for the party. That is the lamest part. Don't do that to your players. Don't make this contrived, nonsensical things. It's fine to have a little bit of cheese in the campaign, but if the entire campaign is cheesed out, the players can't do anything at all because they're literally trapped, that you already failed as a DM in that situation, in my opinion. Well, that's gonna be all our stories for RPG Horror Story Christmas Edition. I was hoping we can get through at least a couple more stories here and there, but this last story was kind of long, and you know what? I'm gonna wait to save this story for another time. You know what? There's a lot of great stories on RPG Horror Stories. A lot of the older stories that I've never covered before and that I've never even seen other people cover it. And believe me, I watch a lot of people cover a lot of RPG Horror Stories. I've been a Den of the Drake fan since a long time, and discovering all the other RPG Horror Story YouTubers that basically got me to do what I'm doing today. There's a lot of stories that I've seen and even more that I have not seen and have not been at least covered, at least I don't believe have been covered. So I'm gonna work on covering those, and we're probably gonna go through some of the backlog for RPG Horror Stories, best and brightest and scariest. I want to do some more stories, but I think I'm gonna save the rest for a New Year's and celebration, so we can go towards like biggest stories or one of the more catchy stories that I've never got to read before. I'm gonna start making a whole list for them, try to find them specifically out there to maybe have like a bit of a end of the year with a bang kind of thing. Find the juiciest stories that I can read with my friends. We can all react together. I just want to wish you guys a Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, and I hope you guys have a lovely time meeting the end of the year. I look forward to making more videos for you guys for the last little part of this year. Out tomorrow, please take it away. And with that, that's going to be all our stories for today. I want to thank you very much for watching, and thanks so much for being here. If you like what I do, consider subscribing to the channel and leaving a like. Also, if the RPG Horror Stories ever goes down, or if you want to submit your own personalized horror story, email is down in the description below. I'll see you again in more Tales tomorrow. Bye-bye.